Hello everyone and welcome back to Riverview, and we'll do a dramatic zoom now for cinematic effect. And you might have noticed that it's actually raining today in Riverview, which is a very rare thing. Not because the climate here doesn't allow for it, it's because I'm a big cheat, so I usually jump into climate and I toggle it off because it's noisy and at times annoying. And I'm from Denmark, where it rains quite a bit, so I have some deep-rooted trauma here I'm trying to deal with. Anyways, in the previous episode, we developed a new tramline extension for the hip neighborhood of Northside, building a completely custom tram station here in Old Port. And the tram moves alongside Woodland Street, turns to the right, and goes through Bohemia Street, where it terminates in the very north end of Northside. We also built a small musical high school for this new hip area, and developed a bit of a wonky, funky parking lot, mainly just to showcase what's actually possible with mods these days. Today we are going to depart slightly from the heavy detailing of previous episodes and think in a bit of a bigger picture, as we'll actually do some proper expansion to Riverview. But before we jump into that, I am going to fix a few things from the previous episode based on the wonderful suggestions of you guys. You guys really help out with the good input. And speaking of the previous episode, I want to thank you guys all for the amount of engagement. And yeah, this is my awful transition into saying that if you enjoy my content, I would really appreciate a like. Now the first thing I'll be very quick to fix, as it's the most embarrassing one, is that I proudly pronounced in the previous episode that I had now fixed this very complex crossing so that right turns were allowed everywhere. But they're not. I forgot one road, 1 out of 4. Just, yeah. It's a very complex crossing. I hope you guys can give me that. So it's fixed now, and I don't hope there are any more issues here. And then one more thing, people commented that it's a cool parking lot, but it is a bit wonky if there's no reason for the wonkiness. And that's a really good point. And I think I even did mention that I wanted to build like a service building or something, so don't know why I didn't. But I guess we could have like a small warehouse here, or some sort of service facility, maybe even a small shop. Something here as well, and then just bring this pathway a little closer to kind of enclose this area. So let's just do that to make, give this parking lot a bit more sense, So we'll just be bringing the path here a little closer, maybe even add in a bit of a crossing here. Not that it's a super big recreational area, but it does offer a bit of green space out here. So that's that completed. I think next up we're gonna look for some sort of service building here, or maybe a small commercial establishment as well. We're gonna go 3, 2 at least. Let's just check the industrial situation, see if there's something fitting. Would just be like a type of shit, really. So maybe if we grab this one, we disable a bit of snapping and just bring it back ever so slightly. And I think it's complaining because we've got a pedestrian street cutting through here. So we're just gonna remove that. Yeah, it actually connected to that. That's very interesting. And that means I probably can't delete this. So I'll delete the building first. And then I'll move in and delete this custom pedestrian road, and then we'll try again and see if it complains. No complaints. Just gonna get rid of the trees as well. Yeah, it's proving quite a challenge to place this simple building, and this isn't even the one. What am I doing? We'll grab this one here. Maybe this one? Yeah, this one. And we've got a bit of space over here, and I think we're gonna see if we can, grab a small commercial something, just like a little store here. Could be kind of cozy. It's a bit odd from a US-centric zoning perspective, but I guess it could work. And I'll try to just remove the trees now. There you go. And let's see if we can grab picker and just get ourselves a bit of stained decals here. Grab picker again and see if we can steal some of these trees. Whoops. I don't want it to fly on top of the building. And I think that's a good little implementation to make this wonky shape make a little more sense. Now the next slightly embarrassing thing we are also gonna be fixing, based on your feedback and help, is why people wouldn't use my custom paths to the custom tram station and pretty much exclusively use the actual pedestrian paths on the tram tracks. And the reason probably is that I actually forgot to provide connection from the invisible custom paths to the actual train station. I guess that would kind of explain at least why they can't really enter. So I'll try to just create something here without messing it up. Just gotta connect to the actual tracks, allow for that connection at least. And I have placed some hang around areas, so hopefully this is going to be sufficient. I had hoped before that that would actually make it work, but hopefully this is going to prompt people to use my custom paths. So we're already a couple of minutes in and we've only been fixing mistakes. I feel so accomplished. Alright, I think it's time we look into some new developments, but we're actually gonna start upzoning or rezoning some existing areas first, just like we've done here with Northside, to bring in that extra density, and with these new row house zoning types, it's even more exciting. Now, we have been losing population for quite a few episodes now, and the answer lies in the statistics, which is a part that Skylines 2 does really well, I find. So if we check our population growth, we've got two categories here. We've got a birth rate, which is the dark green that's tracked here. I don't know what happened here. Maybe Riverview won the football championship or something. And then we've got the amount of citizens moved in. Now this one is very, very strongly correlated to the amount of new housing units we as a city council provide throughout the metro area. So basically just zoning more stuff, or, you know, just building massive redevelopments. So this, for instance, it really looks like around the time we built the yard, because that added many people to a former derelict industrial area. But what is very clear here, of course, is that the trend is that I haven't really been expanding Riverview all that much in the past many episodes, and that's why we're seeing this decline, because then there aren't any available housing units. Now, if we combine this statistic with our population decline statistic, it's very obvious why the population has been declining. Because if we check the death rate, we see that we are just about past the worst death wave that Riverview has ever encountered. This is the peak we're seeing here. It's tapering off a bit, but generally the amount of people that die due to having been retired here for a long time is pretty high. The amount of people that are moving away, this purple one here, isn't really alarming. It's kind of, it bounces quite a bit, and it's not nearly the highest it's ever been. But when we combine these two statistics, it's very obvious why we're seeing slight population losses. So this is going to stabilize, and it's not something that we can fix in one episode, because as people die off, their properties also enter the housing market again, and new people moving to the city can potentially buy them. But just like the real life economy, Riverview is pretty much built like a Ponzi scheme. So if we really want to see that growth and hit 100,000, we're going to have to work on providing more housing units. Like I said, it's not fixable in one episode, but we can start it now at least. And there's a particular area here in downtown New Chelsea that I've always kind of envisioned to be higher density than it is. Because I'm pretty happy with how New Chelsea turned out. We zoned this entire thing, didn't really manually place anything, so I'm very happy with how it looks. But there's a bit of an oddity here in how it's built, because pretty much as it goes from pretty high density, a bit of row house, and then right as you cross underneath the Riverview Expressway, it's just super low density, and I kind of want to change that, and with the new zoning types we can. So we'll just be renaming these two streets to Chelsea Boulevard, both of them, yoink. And then pretty much my plan is to upzone this entire stretch to the, let's find it, to this North American mixed row zone. So let's just rezone all this stuff here. I guess underneath the expressway here, it actually does make quite a bit of sense to have some low density commercial, just because the buildings aren't all that tall. But otherwise, we are really gonna get this zoned everywhere. So there's a bit of stuff here I should probably also leave as low density commercial. And we'll just be rezoning this. And then I think for this particular lot here, we are just gonna reorient it, and we'll do the same over here. We're basically just gonna carve into this. Whoops. Remove these houses here. We're just gonna pause, get these houses out of the way, and get this rezoned. And hopefully this is gonna turn into a proper corner lot and not give me any issues, but we will see, I guess. We've also got a cul-de-sac here that has overstayed its welcome, so I'll just remove it or bring it back a bit so that we've got a bit more space for the mixed zoning. And then because I have Plop the Growables on, the houses aren't going to just rezone automatically or rather get deleted because they're not on the zoning type they want. So I'll have to just make sure everything is redeveloped. I'm just gonna hit play and see it all develop now. Oh, and something cool we can actually add here is that if you remember from the previous episode, I've also started looking into some of our horrible education coverage. Yeah, very American indeed. And one way we can do that is through some custom assets. So there's actually a row building high school. Now it's obviously not like a massive institution that offers hundreds of spots. I think it offers 80 students, but it's a start. It's a start, and it does spread out the coverage a little more. And it's just a cool way of using some of these new possibilities. Let's let this part of New Chelsea redevelop anew, and then we're going to redevelop another part of New Chelsea as well. If we move up north here, then some of you may even remember that before we built this downtown, this was actually the downtown of New Chelsea. I think it was called something else back then. But for the very same reason that we've just upzoned the area down here, I want to upzone this area here, because I had hoped that we could not turn this into medium density, but something in between. But before we had the possibility of adding, row house density with actual workplaces and, storefronts, then I just kind of went for a low density look. So we're gonna do the very same thing here. I'm gonna let the parking lots stick, I think. And then I'm gonna go ahead and just try zone the whole thing. We'll leave in a few low density commercial assets, I feel, but otherwise I'm just gonna try and upzone the whole thing. And then not these ones though, not these houses here, like so. And then I'm just gonna try and let that develop and see how that actually pans out, because this mixed row zone, it actually has pretty decent corner lots as well, which obviously makes it a lot easier to just really zone the whole thing out and then hope for the corner lots to develop. And I think we're gonna move a bit down this street as well. I think that would be a bit interesting, and maybe even move up this street here, Garland Street. Now in this case, I'm probably gonna go for some residential stuff here. I don't want shops everywhere, obviously. And then as we move up here, we are gonna go for some residential as well. And we're gonna leave an open area here for the development of some corner stuff. So just zone this up here. And then we'll get to all the deleting. And while we let all that stuff develop, we could see if we can help handling this diff wave a little better. Let's see. Healthcare, deathcare, crematorium availability. We're currently experiencing more than 2,000 deaths a month, and we can handle 570. Okay. So, cemetery availability is getting kind of low. So this is probably a good chance to use some more custom assets, because I've also downloaded a pack that gives us some more opportunities here. Basically, these are the assets from the cemetery and the crematorium that have just been like cleverly split up or stitched together. So it's not actual custom assets, any of the stuff we're using in game right now, but it does offer a lot of variability. So the old cemetery, let's see if we can just place that somewhere around here. We've got we've got a bit of hilly terrain here that looks a bit odd with the zoned houses. It's probably not gonna look less odd when I add in the cemetery, but we can manipulate the terrain to make it look a little nice, I hope. So let's see what we can do here. Oops. We'll grab the old cemetery. Or maybe there's a chapel with a cemetery actually that we can add. Let's just do that. That's pretty nice. I'm wondering if we can stitch in like the old cemetery as well. Just to kind of make it a bit of a bigger structure. I think that works all right actually. So I'm just gonna fix up the landscaping here. We're just gonna expand this level here out a bit and then move in and soften it, so that we don't have any rough terrain edges around the building or the hitch here. I'm so close to start detailing that up, but it's not the purpose of this episode. So I'm just gonna do some very, very simple paths. And I hope that's all right with you guys. Just get some simple stuff in place, really. Something like this maybe, and then I'll be adding some nice trees as well, and that's it. And I think this is an instance where we're gonna do the trick we did in the previous episode as well. We're gonna grab this apple tree here, and then by just lowering it a couple of meters, let's see, 3 meters maybe, we essentially just turn it into a big bush. And this seems to have developed pretty nicely. Something I also want to focus a bit on is fixing some of the unreliable mail service, which, as you guys can see, is the main detractor currently from our happiness level. So in general, the city is happy, on average, very happy, which is great. But we might as well get rid of this problem. And I think one of the reasons we have this issue is also that I think the post-sorting facility is still bugged. At least I am seeing no usage at all. And I mean, there's a bit of stored mail, but I don't know, it seems kind of weird. So the first thing I'm gonna do is I am going to add a bunch of mailboxes throughout the city, and then we're gonna build the regular post office with all the upgrades we can. And we'll probably add that up here in this northeastern part here near New Chelsea, provide some extra jobs to that area. But first I've gotta spam some post boxes. So that was probably 15 new mailboxes. Let's go ahead and grab the post office. We've got a pretty good spot here, I feel, which we could use. Alternatively, we could just put it on this side of the road and then maybe have some housing developments here. So I'll just use this awkward space here, bring it back a bit so that it feels a little more unique. Then we are just gonna add both extensions, not really, I don't know if they're necessary, but the extensions do always look pretty good in this game, so just be adding those in. Very simple stuff. And then we've got a place here for some developments. And I think I'll be going with some type of medium density here, just get the density up a bit. So we'll just go for buildings. Let's filter for medium density. If I can find something US style, then that would be great. But I think if it's going to look a little more modern than some of this 20s and 30s architecture, I will probably have to go grab some European stuff, because there's a few designs here that are something like this, which is a bit more funky. Doesn't necessarily fit all that well in a North American context, but it is more modern in nature. It looks like a 60s or 70s type build, you know, post Second World War population boom build, stuff like that. So just gonna try and find one that's not too tall and kind of fits the bill. So I think I'll just be grabbing these, and then I'm going to try and just align them slightly. Actually, I'm gonna align them as much as the game will allow me to, so that they still have road connection, and then I'm just gonna quickly move in with the surface tool if I need to do a bit of changes to the surface, and that seems to be the case. So it would seem I can basically just maybe drag this node down and this one here, and that's pretty much just what I'm gonna do. And then obviously they're gonna need some parking for their personal vehicles, so we're just gonna get rid of all the trees here. Probably gonna add some new in just a second, and then I'm going to use some ploppable functional parking from PDX mods that I have also used in the previous episode, which I find really nice. So it's these here, and we can even snap them to the road basically. And I think we might even be, if we snap them, they're going to overlap, but we might be able to use the line tool to add these. So if I drag this out and rotate it by 90 degrees, and then decrease the distance, and if I hold down Control, I'm able to increase or decrease by small increments. So let's just see what we need. 8.9 is probably what I want, and then I just need to ensure that they are properly aligned. Oh, there's a bit of terraforming here, so I'm just gonna move over here. Oh, not terraforming, there's a bit of a difference, sorry, in the terrain height, and that is going to cause some issues with these. So we're just gonna go all the way over here, if I can. Yank. And should function properly. And of course this is going to need just a bit of surface painting as well. But the surfaces actually snap to the outlines of these, so that's perfect. And that is simple parking, if I've ever seen simple parking. And then just a few decals to the rescue. Some of these large ones here. Okay, so some pretty basic stuff, but we've got the very first bike parked here, so it's an alright addition given the amount of time it took to create and some of the issues it's hoping to solve. Unreliable mail service, still -10, but hopefully that's gonna improve in the coming months. We're seeing a bit of population growth again, so let's just jump in and check some statistics. We've got population growth, and we're actually seeing a pretty decent rebound in citizens moving in. So we haven't done anything to encourage a higher birth rate, which I guess makes sense from a simulation perspective with the stuff we've been building. Although maybe if the unreliable mail service will decrease as a detractor, then maybe that's going to affect the birth rate. I don't know how that's calculated. But we are seeing new citizens move in due to the new housing units we've provided and the upzoning we've been conducting. But of course, it's a combination with, you know, we are a couple of months now past the peak in the death wave. So that's pretty nice. Although we have seen another peak in the amount of citizens moving away. Yeah, I don't know. But this continuously changes and we're seeing a downwards trend now. So it's going to be interesting to see just how much, you know, how high a population we would actually settle for with the new developments we've done thus far. So we are going to start adding some detached housing, some single family low density sprawl to Riverview throughout some of these open pockets of land that we still have available to us. My hopes are that providing this type of housing, which there is a high demand for, is going to increase our birth rate. I'm not sure if that's actually the case, but it's currently 647. And if we check our statistics, and I move this out of the way, we can see that our birth rate is pretty stable throughout, and it's about 930 on August, so we'll be able to track this after adding all these new zones. So let's just get to it and see how that affects our rates here. So I went for pretty low detailing, and I'm happy with how it turned out. I mean, just adding some trees to the actual lots and some basic paths really does wonders, and yeah, really provides a lot of bang for your buck. I really don't want to detail up areas like this. I did add like a small commercial area here, which I'm going to add some rural services to. It's another pack I grabbed from the PDX mods. So I've got this rural police station here, which is very rural, very tiny. But I'm just gonna add that. I also need a health clinic out here, I think. So we've got a rural medical clinic as well. This one is actually a pretty nice asset. The police station is as well, but it also just kind of looks like a forest bungalow or something like that. Anyways, where was I? Yeah, rural medical clinic. We'll just add that a few houses down the road here. Here, I think. Very nice. And then do we have a... I don't have a rural firehouse, but I do have a row firehouse. I don't want to add that though. Something we can add is a custom park. Let's see. Big parks. There's a 6x4 playground. Also grabbed from PDX mods. Just gonna get the alignment right, hopefully. Right next to the medical clinic, so if your kid breaks both legs, then it's an easy transfer. Alright. Anyways, the idea of settling this demand was to provide some cheaper housing for young couples and getting the birth rate to increase. And it has increased slightly, but I mean, it's something. It hasn't been above 700 in quite a while, I think, if we take a little look. Yeah, it's let's get this one out of the way. It's actually looking like, oh. Well, I mean, if we check most recently, things are looking all right. I should say though, population is still decreasing, and it's still due to a lot of seniors dying off. Basically, it's kind of morbid, but I think something that's important to notice is, or note rather, is that I'm using the population rebalance mod. And it changes the demographic of your city substantially to a more realistic setup. Like one change it makes is that people become seniors at the age of 75 instead of 84, which is a lot more realistic. But it also increases the death chance, so to speak, of seniors by a factor of 3. So you will have much stronger death waves when time comes around. Another thing it changes substantially is it kind of revamps the education needs, because in the vanilla game you need 1 million elementary schools and very, very few places of higher education. It rebalances that so that you need much fewer elementary schools, but there's a much greater need for high school, college and university. So that does sort of help explain how these statistics are looking for Riverview, and it explains why the population is actually a little more difficult to grow. And I guess in conjunction with the traffic mod we're using, that doesn't arbitrarily reduce traffic as the city grows, because that's also a vanilla feature. Things relating to traffic, population growth and education needs are actually a bit harder in Riverview compared to vanilla. That's not to say we couldn't fix all these issues in Riverview, but I mean, I'll do everything I can to not really fix them. I'm the mayor, so I'm a career politician. To be fair, I actually seems to have improved the unreliable mail service situation. Still unreliable, but it's less unreliable. We've pretty much satisfied our low density demand, which makes sense. People haven't even moved in yet, but we've still got some medium density. So I think we're gonna build like a single developer row house development, and hopefully that's gonna turn out all right. I haven't really done these before, not with the zoned row houses at least. I've utilized row houses out here, the signature ones, to create really modern new areas. But I think for this one we're gonna go a little older, a little more olden style. I just have to find a suitable lot. And we've got an area here which is pretty central to New Chelsea downtown, as well as this public housing development here. So I think we're gonna attempt to do something here. Just gonna get rid of all the buildings. Probably gonna get rid of all the vegetation as well. get this disabled. Something like this. And then I think my idea is to have some parking run behind the buildings. So I might as well just map that out first real quick. And I'm just, is this the central zoning tile? It's pretty close to it at least. So we'll just do some form of setup here where we have these branch out. Let's see. Oh, I'll just bring that in by one so that we've got a bit more space. That's all connected up. And then it's fortunately pretty easy peasy with the surfaces, of course, due to the snapping. Yeah, and then it is a bit skewed towards this side, but then maybe we can just have a bit of open recreational space on this side of the parking and then have the row houses attached towards or orient themselves towards Birch Lane and Lake Street. So we're going for residential and row house width is 1. Building level pretty high, American themed, and then 4 tiles deep is probably what we'll be needing for this segment here, and then 4 tiles deep as well over here, although we can potentially fit in these and then you just have bigger gardens here. We might actually just try to go for that approach at first. I'm just gonna add a few. Something like this, and then we'll add the same type but in a 4 tiles deep configuration over here. Although it might actually be more interesting to... Now we're gonna keep it as is. Let's just finish this and just see how it actually looks before I make new plans. I think maybe adding in a basketball court here would be a little better. Parking is very dominating. I mean, it's not too bad. It's American development, but it's, yeah, it looks pretty weird. So I think maybe we should just keep this, and then it's actually a former parking lot or a part of the parking lot converted into a basketball court to add a bit more recreational space. Just bring this back a bit, I think. And okay, the surface of the basketball court just kind of consumed everything, but you can still see here, you can still see like the remnants of where the parking lot space used to be. Yeah, leave it to me to build a bunch of new housing as well as new services, only for the city to shrink and fast as well. I'm not really sure what to say, but yeah, let's just do a bit more detailing here. I don't want to do well manicured grass here. I want it to be wild with some nice bushes instead. So we're gonna go for some of the... Which one is the smaller one? It's this one. All right. Do a few different sizes and just add a few of these, and then we might do the trick again with lowering a tree. So also add those in. Effectively as bushes, but we'll start with these ones. Right on, apple tree. Got a small size going, lower by what, 4? Probably. Cool, and then we'll need some trees, of course. I think we'll go for some hickories. They also have these nice autumn colors as well. Adding in some of the sexy new decals. But we can add a no parking here, where there used to be a parking lot. And I think that's sufficient detail. And I guess one might think that just adding in more jobs might help solve some of the population decline we're seeing, but I just don't see how that would solve anything, because we've got 90,000 jobs. We've only got, half of that actually being employed. and the unemployment rate is very, very low. And I mean, 90,000 jobs, we've got a population of 92.5, and I assume that children don't work, and that most seniors don't work either, and probably the same for teens. So that leaves the adult category, these 66%, as our available, labor force. So that's however we cannot calculate this, it's much less than 90,000. So I'm just assuming that it's not really gonna change anything adding a ton of jobs, and that we're just got a bit of a bad spell due to a massive death wave that we kind of have to get through. And we probably need to build even more crematoriums to kind of get through all these people waiting to get picked up. So let's start getting a crematorium going somewhere in East Riverview, maybe. Let's see, we've got an area out here which might be a good fit. There's a bit of park area here even. I think I can delete this twisty boy. And then we'll just grab the regular crematorium for a start. We can upgrade that. We know that it functions rather well. So I'll just make sure to make a bit of space here. And let's see if we can get an upgrade in place. We can add in one here. We'll add in everything, refrigerators, the whole thing, really tune it up. And then just a few trees to kind of cover the way we've placed it in here. Just grabbing the chestnut here with the beautiful autumn colors, since we're now in September. And it seems to be working just fine, fortunately. And I think for the final stretch of this episode, we're going to work on some of the educational issues that we've established earlier. So I think for the university, we're going to need some dedicated episodes to build some universities, which should also be a ton of fun. I'm just going to move in and actually unlock it already, because we've got a ton of available points, so why not? But yeah, university is going to take separate episodes, so we can build some really big sprawling campuses. But high school and college is something we can work on in this episode here, try and improve the situation a little bit. So if we just check our two major education hubs, we've got the East Riverview Metro College here, which has a capacity of 1,500 students. There's a school allocated as well, but this is just for detailing purposes. And then if we move across the river, we've got the South Riverview High. So this is a high school in South Riverview with 1,200 students. And I kind of want to expand these existing hubs instead of creating new educational hubs for this episode here. So I think if we just start up here, then a quick change we might be able to do is just squeeze in this small custom high school that we've been using in the previous episode as well. So if we just put that there, then hopefully, if I'm not completely wrong, we can have we can find a parking lot that's gonna fit in real nice here. Yoink. And we've even got an upgrade available. It doesn't add more student capacity, but it does increase the chance of graduation. So I guess that's a good thing to get done. So it's a small change, but this does increase our capacity with 200 and adds a bit of extra employment to the city. Now for the college area, I think our changes are gonna be a little more substantial. We've already upgraded with extension wings, and we have a college library added. So I think the natural step is going to be I think first we're gonna add a small high school out here somewhere, because it's gonna blend in pretty well and add that extra high school capacity, which we desperately need. So we've got a bit of a hill up here, which I think is going to be a suitable location. So I'm just gonna place that. I'm gonna detail this up in just a second, don't worry about it, but we'll just get that placed initially. And then if we move in here, I want to grab one of these custom variants. The small college here, which basically just grabs the library model here and then repurposes it into a small college with a student capacity of 200, which is a really clever idea. And what I'm gonna do is I'm basically just gonna kind of stitch that into the existing college building. Just want to make sure that my alignment is correct. It's hard to get completely perfect. But something like this. And then stitch those together and then maybe just flip it by about 90 degrees. And add that as an extension here as well, to cover some of the backside here. And no issues with any of the pedestrian traffic, so that's nice. Just gonna get some road connections then. I kind of like how this turned out actually. It does look like a single structure with a bit of imagination at least. But I think this is the main structural changes we'll be doing. So what I'm gonna do now is just completely revamp how I've detailed this by removing much of this rather boring forest, and then hopefully being able to do a bit more interesting landscaping around here, adding in some decals and other details as well. And I might also just get rid of this quote-unquote student housing. I built this a long time ago, and I think I've got a bit of a better idea of how we can actually make this. So let's just get to it. So what do you guys think? I think it's a lot more interesting than what we had before, which was just heavily forested, just like the other parts of the riverbank here. Definitely thinks this is more interesting to look at. And I think that's gonna be a wrap for this episode. There is one question I wanna ask though. So we cleared out this space here a couple of episodes ago. There used to be a bus station here, which obviously we didn't need since we built the transit hub in downtown. And I've been reading some of your suggestions for this place ever since, and it seems to be a pretty popular suggestion that since the city owns this lot, then it should be developed into some sort of public works project such as a major park. But I'm wondering that now we have a need for university coverage that instead of only building a major university outside the city center, we could also actually build some smaller university buildings in here and turn this into like a small downtown branch of one of the universities. Because when I unlock universities, I might actually just do that now because we've got so many points. Let's just unlock the whole shebang. There we go. Then we've got these quote-unquote custom buildings here, just like with the colleges, that we could use to make like a really dense inner city branch, or maybe a separate like arts college in downtown, something like that. So I'm very interested to hear what you guys think. Do you feel we should go ahead and turn this into a real university hub, or should we develop something else entirely? For a final assessment of our situation, we're still bleeding population, but the death rate has fallen quite a bit. The birth rate is up, so hopefully we're just, I mean, there's just a delay here and things are gonna turn around. There's a decrease in the amount of citizens moving in, but there's a pretty steady increase in the birth rate. And when we check population decline, we've pretty much stopped the issue of people moving out as well, and the death rate is slowly but surely declining. So hopefully things are gonna turn around soon and we'll see the city flourish again. But I think that's it for all my rambling. I'm gonna wrap it up now. So just want to thank you guys so much for all the support, all the nice feedback and suggestions, and of course I'm gonna shoot some cinematics now. I hope to see you all in the next one. Goodbye.